Welcome to the Peerless YouTube. I am Caitie North, and today we are going to be doing the third and final class for the portrait series, the natural skin tone, and using 8 colors. So if you haven't already seen the color mixing chart video, it is awesome, and that's only with 15 colors. So you can imagine how many tones and different shades we can get with 8 colors. It's a ton. So definitely kind of recap on that because we will be mixing a lot of colors to get the warm and the cool tones. But yeah, learning a little bit more, but also using what we've learned in the first and second videos for the portraits. So I think it's going to be a really great class and a lot of fun. So let's get started. For your supplies, you'll be needing Peerless watercolor, watercolor brush and paper, a pen and pencil, double-sided tape, scissors, extra small paintbrush, a white gel pen or white ink, and a light box. For our colors, we will be using the red golden hair, brown hair, makeup, contour, bubblegum pink, amber yellow, autumn's indigo, and peacock blue. So we are going to begin just like the last two, and we are going to be starting with our outline and seeing where all of our lights and shadows and face shape, eyes and nose, everything is going to be. So pretty much the same. I am going to do soft lines because I know this one is going to be a little bit more dramatic and have a darker shadow, so I don't want to get those areas lost with how much color I'm going to be putting on the page. So you can remember just to do it in the kind of directions. So if her cheeks are coming down away from her eyes and that kind of cheekbone, cheekbone down to the jawline. There's some ones coming up from her eyelids going directing towards her eyebrows. And yeah, just get more comfortable with her face shape and her shadows. Hopefully you did the last 2 tutorials, so you're very comfortable with this reference photo now. But to get an idea, if you didn't watch the other ones, this is kind of how we're doing it. Okay, so once we have transferred our drawing, there we go, to our watercolor paper, you can kind of lift it up to see a little bit of the areas that you've missed too. I'm going to remove it from the light box and kind of get a little bit more of those shadows and the darker areas that I would like to keep bold, so I will be able to see my pencil marks through the paint. Just kind of, touch it up, play with your painting a little bit more, or drawing. I guess it's a drawing at this stage. But yeah, get familiar with it, add a little bit more lines and kind of some shadows to those dark areas so you don't lose them, and then we will be ready to paint. So now that we have our outline on our watercolor paper, we are going to be starting with our first layer. So we are going to be mixing up the mid-tone layer, and right now we're only going to focus on doing one tone of color. So this one, instead of doing all of the mid-tone at the same time, we are going to be mixing in layers of paint on the page to see what the different layers give you and the effect of kind of putting like like a tan or a natural color down first and then a pink over it to maybe add some blush, or if she just has naturally more pink skin. And then in the next one, we are going to do a green wash to kind of give it some people have more of like an olive skin tone with a green undertone. And then, yeah, kind of playing it with, I'll explain it as we go. But right now we're going to be mixing up, I think, makeup and a little bit maybe of the contour and kind of maybe, yeah, probably about that. It's just going to be like a very warm, natural kind of tan color for our first layer. And so you can see my wash too. It is very transparent and it is very liquidy with just, not liquidy, it's watercolor. They're all liquidy. It's very transparent. There is more water than paint. You could still see it when I put it on the page where it's going, but it is very light. And that way I'm just kind of giving myself a little bit more leeway to not get any areas too dark in the beginning. Especially with these yellow and golden tones, they don't lift off the page as much if you kind of make mistakes and things. So starting out a little bit lighter and working to darker as well. But yeah, anywhere where those kind of mid-tones that are in shadows and just kind of where those highlighted areas are that are not quite like a bright, like the light is shining on it and reflecting, you want to kind of have that warm, kind of glowy, we're going for a glowy look, I guess, today. So once you have your mid-tone golden natural skin tone down, while that is drying, we're going to add a little bit of our Autumn's Indigo to her eyes and kind of give her that, the white of her eyes, a little bit more of that round shape, and we're going to use a blue. And remember, the Autumn's Indigo is a very, very intense paint, and a little bit goes a long way, especially when you're doing the eyes, because you do want them to stay light, but that blue makes a really beautiful shadow. Okay, so now that we are done with that first layer, we can start to add a little bit more depth and shadow, and I'm still going to be using more of the golden tan tones, so between the amber yellow, the contour, and the makeup, and just start building out where I want some of her shadows to be. And I'm going to be doing it in kind of more of an orangey tone, and then yeah, kind of like work around as it's drying. And then I think the next one, I'm pretty sure it's we're gonna do a pink wash too. So I will be back when we are at the next layer. All right, so first and second layers are done and dried. So now we are going to be starting with a pink wash. So I am going to use contour mixed with bubblegum, and then I'm going to dilute it quite a bit. So some of the areas I want it to overlap, and some of the areas I want it to blend from almost white on the page. So it's all personal preference. I do know the areas that are going to be the darkest in my reference photo, I'm going to be doing either a green or a blue shadow, and they're going to be very, very dark. So I'm not too worried about making those too dark with pink or anything like that. But what you do want to focus on are the lighter areas that you want to transition between the very soft natural base tone and then into pink. So you can kind of see where that highlight is under her eye. I don't blend that enough right when it's wet, and it kind of takes me a little while to blend it out over the whole video. But if I were to soften that line with a little bit of water and just kind of like blend it into like where almost white is on the paper, it would look a lot easier and it would save me a little bit of a headache later. So if you're following along like exactly, I would kind of soften that area, but mostly you want is to get another layer of pink and softness, and especially in her cheeks, in their cheekbones, because then once you put the blue down, the blue is going to be at the bottom of the cheekbone, and you're still going to see a little bit of that pink kind of rosy on the top and then underneath. So if you're following around, definitely keep it going. You're doing great. Yeah, and then we can also start with the lips. So the lips have a lot of pink and oranges. So whatever the orange is are highlighted, like where the sun's hitting the lips. I'm gonna kind of do more of like an orange lip, and then where the lips are in shadow, they're gonna be more of a like actual bubblegum pink to purple for the darker shadows as well. So kind of get an idea. And then as areas are driving, you're just going to want to start adding the shadows. So now that you can see that you have the tan wash, a little bit darker orange to tan wash, and now we have the pink wash, and then I'm just barely adding a little bit of blue to that pink and orange and kind of contour mix, and getting my first kind of ash to purple, and then just barely starting to put some shadows down where I know I want the darkest areas to be, because I want them to be pretty intense, and I want you to see like the level that you can get with these paints, because you can make a really soft, beautiful watercolor painting portrait, and then you can make a really intense, crazy, dimensional, dark and shadows, and you see all of these undertones. Like that's what we're going for. And it's just a study too. So like you can try something and be like, oh, that totally is awesome and it worked really cool. And then you put like a green on it and you're like, oh man, I just like totally messed this whole thing up. So disappointed. It's all part of learning. And if you look at these paintings as a study, then you'll be able to know which things that you like and which things that you don't like. And you know, what colors complement each other. Does this actually look like it could be a real person? Are you trying to make it look like a real person? That was, it was a little bit of a rant, but whatever. There's some good information in there. So I will let it kind of play a little bit, and then when it comes to the next big section, I will keep you updated as well. Okay, so now we have come to the first wash of shadows. So this one, I am going to make more of a green, and I'm going to use kind of that rosy color that's been left on my page from the makeup, the pink, and everything like that. And I'm going to mix some of the Peacock blue and the Autumn's Indigo with it till it gets kind of that greeny color. So my idea with this painting is with all of my shadows that are like not the darkest shadow, but the mid-tone shadow, which there's lots of shadows. Her cheekbone and under her neck is definitely the darkest shadow. So the kind of nose and around her lips, around her eyes, her chin, those are like the mid-tone shadows we're going for. I'm going to do more of a green. So that is the green that I'm mixing now. I am kind of overlapping it into the darkest areas, but those ones are also going to get a dark blue shadow. So this is your moment to either like love this or freak out, because depending on how diluted and transparent your green wash is, you might end up with a green face in your portrait, or it might just be just enough that you get like a hint of like an olive kind of skin tone with kind of green undertones, that when you like take a step back and look at it, you're like, oh, that looks really cool, but you're like not exactly sure why. So it's still pretty green right now. I do a little bit more of an intense one so you can see it, but just so you know, this is going to be getting a blue shadow next. So while that green dries, we're gonna work a little bit more on the eyes and the lips and get a little bit more definition. Same way we kind of did that the second tutorial with the eyes, kind of a darker ring around the iris ring, and then softer towards the inner circle and the pupil. And then, yeah, we do a lot of that blue, the Autumn's Indigo and blue to kind of get the shadows. Oh, I actually forgot I did this. So I wanted to do a deeper ring, and so I put the paint all the way around where it was going to go, and then I dropped my paper towel on the inside so it sucks up the paint before it kind of leaves it too dark, but it still kind of pulls it from the center and has that ring is a little bit more like another way to kind of create it. But yeah, and then eyebrows, kind of getting a soft outline of where you want your eyebrows to be with a lighter brown or the dark brown in the hair pack, which is a great color for it. But just very transparent as well until you know the shape and kind of individual hairs and you're happy with them before you put too dark. So start with those with a little bit lighter. The lips, I don't know if I like them as much as the second study. I feel like she lost a little bit of fullness in her pout right there. I put a little bit too much paint in that circle, and the first and second lips from my paint studies for the portraits I liked better because I left those round little circles on her bottom lip that made them look really full and plump. But, you know, they're still good. They still turn out pretty good. Oh, hi. You want to say hi? You say hi, art friends? It's art friends.
Hi.
Hi. We're doing a watercolor tutorial for this painting. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah? We'll have to do a painting with you soon too, huh?
Mom, I don't hear them.
I know, I'm doing the video to teach them right now.
What are they?
They're going to be watching this video on YouTube.
They're at the house?
They will be at their house, yeah, exactly.
What are they though?
They're all over the place. They're all over the world and all over the country. Pretty cool, huh?
Where do they live?
Well, maybe we'll ask them. Sound good?
Who are they? Who?
All right, so I also wanted to kind of show again and explain, now that I've zoomed in a little bit more, the area that was pink and tan, and I said it was a little bit too saturated with paint and I didn't kind of soften the line. Under that eye, it's kind of like a triangle and you can see it a lot more now that we've zoomed in. Everywhere else is like generally kind of blended. I'm not too worried about most of the other areas just because I'm going to add a darker shadow. But that little triangle under her eye that is not blended bothers me so much. And all if I would have done is soften it in that very beginning, that transition, and under her eyelid, kind of like that little soft skin pocket area, it would just look so much better. So keep in mind, that's what I was talking about, and I do fix it a little bit later, but it just kind of takes a little bit more water and blending and a little bit more colors around it. But that could have been saved the headache. But yeah, anyway, working along again using the Autumn's Indigo, and once you layer it over the pink, you get a really pretty purple and kind of those deeper shadows that are kind of inside her lips, and a little bit more of the Autumn's Indigo in her eyelids and around for the eyeshadows. And yeah, I feel like it's starting to kind of look more like a portrait and not so much, you know, she's getting her shape to her. guys, so now we are going to be doing the almost darkest layer, and I'm going to be using a dark green again. And this time you're going to want to add quite a bit of paint and get those very strong shadows, especially where her cheekbone to the jawline is, and that heaviest and darkest area on her nose, and where her neck and her shoulder kind of meet to kind of give it that shape again. I do one more after the hair of blue. So if you're not in love with this green, you can try with a blue or a purple and see how you like that. I do end up kind of going it back again with the blue because I decide I like that a little bit more. It's a little bit more complementary for the kind of pink and tan and olive undertones that I have on her. But yeah, so we're doing that, all of those deepest, darkest shadows. And then next we are going to work on the hair. All right, so now we are ready to do the hair. And just like the first two studies, we are gonna do a little bit more of a looser, kind of softer, kind of a wash for the hair. You gotta still get the idea of the waves and the tendrils and the curls. This time we are gonna put some color in there, so that bright red hair, it's gonna, make everything pop and all of those cooler tones kind of stand out. The red golden hair is one of my absolute favorite colors in Peerless, because of the range of color you can get with it, and you can get all of these beautiful red hair tones and with the first and second layers and even third layers. And I feel like they're just always a beautiful tone, like no matter how much or little you have on there. Like look how bright it is up there, and it just makes her eyes pop. And then when you're kind of making those softer curls, like it's kind of like blurred or out of focus, like kind of right where I'm working right now, this color just looks just as amazing in a more diluted and transparent version as it does in the super rich and concentrated version. I love this color. I hope you do too. So working around, you want to get all of your bright red pieces, kind of give the ideas of the waves, the curls, kind of pushing away from her head, kind of like coming up from the ear area. And then as far as adding a little bit of depth and shadow, you're going to use the dark brown hair. And you can, as soft as you would like when it is wet with the wet and wet. And then if you want more, dimension and technical hair style, you're going to want to let this dry and then do it like, your actual tendrils. But just for the sake of making this video under an hour or 40 minutes, we are going to do a softer hair look and not get into doing individual hair strands. But if you would like that, there are YouTubes how I like to do hair strands, and there is one specifically for curly hair and for red curly hair too. So if you're interested in that, that is available. So I am using between the dark brown hair and then the red golden hair, and just getting all of those spirally tendrils. So this is where I want to get rid of that weird highlighted area under her eye. And I also decide that I want to do, I don't even know. I think I changed my mind a couple times in the direction of this painting, but that's the great thing about being an artist, is that you get to change your mind halfway through and decide to do something different. But basically, I am going to be working under that eye and then kind of softening and adding a little bit more warm tones. I decided that I want her to be kind of more of like a summery glow and super rich in the warm tones. And I'm working in that area, and I'm working mostly with just the paint that's around it and a little bit of that golden tone. And I'm just trying to soften that kind of weird triangle that I made, while adding some more golden tones kind of sporadically around her face, so everything kind of matches and lines up and gets a little bit more uniform. I am so sorry, but my placement of my camera, you cannot see the bottom of her shoulder and what I am doing with her clothing. But in the original photo, that before I made it grayscale, it's actually this really beautiful bluish green, and I'm using the Peacock blue to make that. And then the folds in her fabric, I am using the Autumn's Indigo. And you'll be able to see it in a little bit when I readjust my camera lens, but I am very sorry because it was very pretty, and you'll get it eventually, but right now it's a little bit in shadow. So now that first wash of the hair is dry, now we can go back and add some individual hair tendrils and kind of give it a little bit more shape and direction with the hair. And if you want to keep it more of a natural red, you could do the dark brown hair. If you want to make it more fiery red, you would use another wash of the red golden hair, which is also gorgeous. Moving along to the eyebrows, and you're going to want to use the dark brown hair and start adding in those individual eyebrow hairs in the direction of your eyebrow and the eyebrow shape that you made with the lighter colors, and then just starting to fill them in and getting the thickness and individual hairs on both sides. I always kind of like what the eyes look like in paintings when they don't have pupils. I don't know what it is about it, but they look kind of like creepy, but like strangely beautiful. But then I put the pupils in, I'm like, oh, look, you have a soul now. So I always feel like once they get their pupils in their eyes, then it kind of gets like the depth of your insides. So now we're going to do the eye line. Reestablishing those dark creases in the upper eyelid, the pupils, and your darker eye shadows. And I think right now is where I add the darkest and last wash, which is the Autumn's Indigo. And I get all of those darker areas. And I think maybe after that I'll do the eyelashes once those little bits dry. But using your Autumn's Indigo, and now that you have those base layers of the warm and the green kind of the undertones, and your strongest, most defined layer with the blue now. Yeah, I'm liking it. I like the depth that you get from the blue, and I like that some of the areas you still get kind of like a deep, and especially the Autumn's Indigo, I think it's such a pretty color that you can still get like a really rich blue even with all of those warm tones underneath and the green tones underneath, and it just looks like an intense shadow. And even in the hair, yeah, just play with it, see how you like it, and kind of where all those adding little bits to kind of achieve that intense in shadow, high contrast look. And I think I do some in the hair as well. And then, yeah, I'll check back in a minute. There she is. We're getting closer to the end. And now we are going to be doing our freckles. So again, with these red golden hair, I feel like they are the most amazing value in dark to light and intense to translucent, that they just look amazing for freckles. So I literally just, I go crazy with the freckles. I feel like redheads especially just look so good with freckles. I think freckles are amazing and they're so cute. So I go all kinds of crazy with them on her, just finally, because they're the real red color that they're supposed to be, and they're just so cute. And then you can kind of see what I was talking about with the folds and the fabric on her. I don't know if it's a shawl or like a one-sided shirt or something, but it's a very beautiful color with the peacock blue and the autumn's indigo. It's a great contrast with the red, and especially with her eyes, it's a very similar color too. And then once you are done with your freckles, we will do some white highlights with the white ink. All right, last step. We are going to add some white highlights and reflections in her eyes. We're gonna do little dots near her tear duct. Definitely on her lips to kind of bring back some of that plumpness and kind of like that high shine. Maybe she's wearing a lip gloss. We're gonna put some on the eyelashes, especially those bottom eyelashes, because they are blonde in her reference photo. And I'm very loosely going to do some on her hair to kind of show some individual curls, and just, wherever I want. I love white highlights, just as much as you feel like you would like to do. And yeah, I'll let this go until the end, but this is basically it. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a few things, especially about layering color and not being afraid of fixing areas when they're not what you're wanting them, and even getting those super dark, rich, deep shadows and playing with all of the things. And yeah, I hope you're a little bit more confident in doing your own portraits. I can't wait to see your paintings. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and I will see you next time.